inspired by women's stories, but I hope that Faria's story will inspire men and boys as well, because I guess when you relate to your own gender more naturally, but in a way, I think she's quite an inspiring story in general. At least for me, it was, and it's still even today. Even as a woman, as a filmmaker, as a person, as everything, she's still. I can't just stop being amazed by her, and then that is how I felt and connected to the story in a way that really it is what inspired me to work hard on the film anyhow, you know.
And then Faria was a big role to fill. How did you go about finding the actress that would fill those big shoes?
Well, first of all, I think I don't know if Armand Morina is here. My good friend Armand Morina is who put me in touch with Ulrika Goshi, the actress, to work on a short film in US. And I wasn't sure if I should call Ulrika because she is a famous actress here and I didn't have a lot of money. But then he was like, we'll call her, the script is good and she'll come. So I worked with her on a short film in US. And then when we went together with Armand and Ulrika to meet Faria for the first time, and with my husband Artan, who's also a filmmaker. So all of us went to meet Faria and ask her if she would want us to do a film about her life. But in a way, I just really wanted to meet her, even if she says no. I just wanted to say how. Actually, I just wanted to I thought that she would need my support, so I could say thank you for doing this. This is amazing, but she didn't really need my support because she was much stronger than me, and I ended up being the supported and encouraged one, to be honest, from the very first meeting, because she didn't even need my support. Because she is that, I mean, for those of you who saw her in the premiere, everybody was crying, and she answered with a joke. And of course she cries as well. Of course she cried a lot, but then as she said, I would cry every morning and then wipe my tears and go to work. So this is how she responds. And even when I'm crying, she's like, "Why did you cry?" In the Q&A, she's like, but I really liked her character. But then she was an open book from the first meeting, and this is how kind of like I casted Ulrika before even starting to write the script. And we both lived with a character, which I think it helped a lot to both of us, because I only started writing the script 5 years after I first met Faria, because I had to graduate, then I had 2 children, so life got complicated. And then when I started writing the script, we basically spoke a lot about how it is really to be this woman, rather than, of course we did rehearse and everything, but because I had an experience with Ulrika, I knew she is the one from the very beginning. For the rest of the actresses, I mean, I know most of the actresses because it's a small community, and I work in a lot of films here as sometimes as a casting director, sometimes as an assistant director, mostly as an assistant director, but they always ask me for actors anyhow. But I always do open auditions because, first of all, I like to see even the actresses who I know and worked before. I like to test them for the role that I'm looking them at. I want to see them in that role a little bit. But then also, you never know. I even in Hive, I've worked with actresses with whom I never worked before, and I'm really happy that I did the audition. I like auditioning. I like casting. I like working with actors. So for me, it is. After writing the script, it is the job that I really love a lot. Is casting and really working with actors. So I pay a lot of attention, and I pretty much always do open auditions. Sorry,
Great.
I was very long.
No. Thank you. Wonderful. Kaltrina, your film nobody has seen yet, so we can't tell too much about it. I know. I mean, but the audience has not seen it, so we can't tell too much about it. Yeah, you, of course. But Kaltrina, please tell us about how the story came to you and how the process was for you to cast your actress.
Well, I started making Vera.
Can you hold it a bit more close?
Yeah, I started making Vera 7 years ago. And this year I'm the happiest person on earth because I can move on. There are so many stories in my stomach that I think I'm gonna burst. it was quite strange because it was the year of 2014, and a friend of mine, Dori Basha, with whom I went to high school, we were in a classical gymnasium, we studied quite a lot of maths together. Then once we were done with the gymnasium, both of us decided to go to art schools. Then we hadn't seen each other for about 10 to 12 years. We were traveling and studying. And then she came to me in 2014 and she said, Kaltrina, I have a script I would like you to read. And it's called Vera Dreams of the Sea. My mother's name is Vera, and I was very surprised. I was like, whoa, this is crazy, because it's not a name that many women carry here. And Vera means summer, so what actually the title says is Summer Dreams of the Sea. And it was quite, it just opened my imagination completely, even without going through the script. Then I read the script, and I was quite shocked by it. I think there were two main reasons why. First, it was the main character and the generation she was representing. She's a woman who is 64 years old. You don't really see that generation in film. You don't really read about that generation in the front line in literature or theater. And she was, the way she was written, it was very intimate, and it just kind of felt that I was spending time with my mother's girlfriends and my mother and my aunts. The second reason why it was very important for me as a story was the fact that it was her, 64, fighting for the property of her family. And women and property is not topic very specific to Kosovo. If you do just a little bit of digging worldwide, this is like quite a universal issue. It translates culturally differently in different settings, but it's a struggle worldwide. What I loved about this particular woman was because she is a sign language interpreter. She spends her life translating the world for people who cannot talk. But once she's in this situation, she cannot be an agent for herself. And I read the script. I called Dorian and said, I really want to do this. But then what I did was I dived into this very deep research. My background is also in oral history. I use oral history methodology and practices when I do research for building my films. And then I started interviewing women of this particular generation because I really wanted to know if this situation regarding women and property has changed at all. Why? My mother divorced my father when I was 5 in 1985. And she fought him in courts for 4 years for her share of the property. You have to understand that women in Kosovo gained their right to vote in 1941, just before the end of the Second World War, while they got their right to property in 1945. But what did we learn by this? Having a perfect legislation which puts women in a surface where they feel or they are represented as equals means nothing to tradition. Tradition is a setup that needs to be negotiated every day and at the same time pushed and poked by law every day. Otherwise it doesn't work. Law doesn't work, means nothing. It's just a piece of paper beautifully arranged for people to talk about, but not really enforced. So she fought my father for 4 years. She was defeated, not because she was not eligible to property, but because she could not financially support that battle. So she had to make a decision if she wanted to support me and my sister or go on with a battle. And she chose me and my sister. The fact that my mother was not given equal property rights did scar the future of me and my sister, because we were continuously challenged. We had ambitions. Our mother has always been highly educated. We wanted to go to good schools. We lived in the 90s. We had big dreams. It also gave us access to all of these other worlds of marginalized people, because we felt marginalized. continuously. And the beauty of it was that from early age, we created, my sister and I created quite healthy alliances with all the people in the margins, with people of color, LGBTQ community, queer people. It was just natural being around them. They faced pretty much the similar struggles we did. And Vera became my life's journey. It took me 7 years. I worked very, 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 very hard to make it. But finding Vera was an issue in itself. Casting her. Why? Well, because she's 64. Women who are 64 are women who were born in the 50s. That generation of women worldwide has not been encouraged to study arts. In the Balkans, of course, not. The women of that generation are educated, but not in the fields of arts, because arts is not something that can support a family, and it's sometimes not very decent for women to pursue. Not recommended, yes. So the pool was very small. I was traveling for a year with my producer between Tirana, Skopje, and Pristina, auditioning different kinds of women, even trying variations of women that could, in one way or another, look older. But I was not happy with that. It was not satisfying me, because I just felt that I would betray my film if I casted somebody younger, because I would betray exactly the generation I wanted to represent. Also, the other obstacle and challenge was that the actress had to learn the sign language, because the main character in the film, yes, she is the closest agent with the deaf community. And then I found Teuta, a woman, an actress who has been active in the National Theatre of Skopje. And I started this journey with her after a year of casting and casting and casting. And the beauty of that relationship was that she was such a rock, a great team member. It was like being with my mother every day. She learned the language and made me proud every day to be in the same set with her. I'm not going to cry because of Fahariya today.
You can cry. There's nothing wrong with crying. Thank you so much. Now, this is the other side of the world of casting. So, Cassandra, when you hear their stories about their experience in casting, we'll come to the films also, but what is your thought about this?
Well, you made me cry. But it's very interesting because, of course, in my world, the idea of a director seeing 1,300 actors, or spending a year, or spending a year in search of your lead, or seeing all the actors in Pristina, basically, is sort of mind blowing. Because, of course, that's what I do, and I deliver, 5 or 10 choices to them. But I'm actually really, the films were so beautiful, and they were so beautifully cast. The acting was spectacular across the board. And I'm actually just sitting here thinking and wanting to know from you, was that process of going through those 1,300 people, the process of searching for a year, I wonder if if you had not done that, would it have been a different experience for you as a filmmaker? Because maybe it's like you guys, we should all be doing that. I don't know, it sounds amazing.
For sure. Yes, for sure. Because you create a character in your head, but you are giving too much of your thoughts on it. And especially, again, with my case, it was about a teenager. You never know how a teenager feels because they are very attentive to whatever surrounds them. They are in this urgency to be seen and to see and to define their place. You can never feel like them. For me, having casted more than 1,300 people, was a chance to really, because even the casting process, like for me, we did not a normal casting somehow. It was just interviewing a lot of people, but in a more natural way. Like I could spend time with them and hear their stories and never talk about film. And of course, it helped me kind of narrow the world I want to portray. Like, because it's in the energy of the voice sometimes. You don't need to hear all the time the stories, or like, even as a director, chase a story. You want that energy that maybe it's about the things that are unsaid. This is more provoking to me. And that's why I auditioned like I did. Like, I didn't want to hear them too much. I wanted to feel them related to something. So for sure, I think, yeah, because I grew up also, and also you become responsible. If you hear that much people talking to you, then you really tell yourself that you have to reach this. Otherwise, you have done nothing, because the script is very, I mean, it's an artifice, and you cannot continue believing on it every day if some other energy doesn't come to it. So for sure, it was very important for me.
Well, for me, it's I love auditioning, especially in Pristina, because Pristina has a brilliant young generation of actors, and you just want to sit and talk to them and listen to their voice, and you just want to see them move, and you just want to see them, how they look at the camera, how comfortable they feel, but also it's my oral history background. I just am terribly interested in people. You know, I sit and audition. I never give them a scene to act or anything. I just want to talk to them and understand particular things, mostly because I need to clarify certain ideas to myself regarding what I want to represent and how, and also about wanting to understand if I'm building scenes which are just very attractive to me, and if they actually make sense to the outside world. But with the older generation, it was a completely different kind of journey, mostly because they have gone through all of the political changes and shifts and transitions. For them, what it meant to be an actor in the 80s has a completely different meaning today. So also, in conversation with them, I also wanted to understand what felt true to them in the film. And in the story I wanted to tell, and especially wanted to talk to them about their early childhoods, and also their youth, because old people look beautiful anyway, you know. You just want to find the right one that can resonate with the character you want to portray.
Well, for me, as I said, I do open calls. Sometimes with main actresses, it really helps because we know most of the actors. But at the same time, when I'm calling the actresses to the auditions, I use scenes. I like to talk to them and hear how they normally talk, just because I think sometimes the accent changes when you're doing a scene or something. But I like to hear them how they talk, but with most of them I already talked and heard it. But if it's a new actress, in this case I'm mentioning actresses because the film is with mostly women. But at the same time, it was very difficult for me to decide which one. So I ended up at some point, because there were a lot of really good actresses. So Kaltrina is very right to say that we really have good actors and actresses here, and they're talented, they're eager to work, and they're really cooperative. So it's really a pleasure to work with them. So that's why I think I enjoy casting and I enjoy working with the actors on set, because they're just really good to work with. So for me, it was mostly just, rehearsing certain scenes for what I called them for the role, and pretty much recording them, because I like when you have a lot of good actresses, then you start to look at how they physically look as well for the role, because then you have a lot of choices. This was really how I decided, but it was a very great dilemma, because for many roles, I probably had 3 choices. So for me, it was pretty much just watching the videos over and over and just see which one fits best, because I knew all 3 of them could do the role well. So for me, it just was like, is it feeling as an ensemble better with this one? So I had to put together pictures and just see how do they feel as a team together, and then of course then we rehearse together just so that they feel better with each other before going to set. But that was pretty much it. I took a little bit long time to respond to a lot of actresses, which I feel bad about that, because I had to think quite a lot, because a lot of them were very good.
I really fear that I'm going to say something super sexist, but I'm going to say it, which is that I kid you not, like, those responses that you gave and the depth and the length and the intensity of the process, like, male filmmakers were, in my world, would never in a million years do that. And it's so inspiring to me that you go through that time to actually talk to the actors, to explore that, to see so many, to go so deep, you know, and to do it yourselves. And I just think it's really visible. It's visible on the screen, and it's part of why you have the success that you've had with your film. So congratulations, and great. I mean, really, it's stunning for me. You agree?
Absolutely. I was, yeah, well, I mean, the whole process altogether. I mean, I very rarely get sent 5 films that are of that quality. Out of 5 films, there's, if you're lucky, 1 that's high quality. The industry is inundated with a lot of crap.
And all films by women. Sorry to say, guys.
Yes. But this is the
we have good male directors as well, just to be clear.
Sure.
And some are sitting in the...
Yeah, but it's very rare
it's
to
our time, sorry.
watch 5 films
It's
with
our
5
spotlight,
fit directors and also 5 fit casts. And the casts are ensembles. Okay, yours a little bit less, but it's still a team. These 2 young ladies, they need each other in this story. You need this pendant. Without it would not work. And it's, I don't know, maybe it's just my opinion, but I think it's easier to find one good actress to carry a film, but it's very difficult then to have an ensemble where you don't feel like the main actor is being pushed up in the story, but that the people work together, and that even the small roles or the smaller roles are incredibly important for the whole story, whether they just show up in a couple of scenes or not. And I feel like there was an incredible amount of attention paid to all of those roles, not just the leading roles, but the whole ensemble. And you never got the feeling that there was some kind of preference to the lead actors, but that the ensemble really was a complete picture. And I really appreciated that, and that led me to really love all the movies, really.
Vjosa, you as a producer of films, does this also reflect for films to have been, you've been your own producer?
No.
Co-produced, you're the producer. You as a woman producer, you feel it also empowers you in looking for more of these kind of stories and working with all this talent that is there?
I produced 1 film and co-produced 1 film with Macedonia. So I was a co-producer of a film that actually had a woman character, but that was a minority co-production, so I didn't get so much involvement in choosing being part of the casting or other stuff. But I was very much involved in the first film, in The Flying Circus, which is a black comedy. It is directed by Vjosa Berisha, who happens to be my husband. And it's a true story of that he experienced it. Unfortunately, in that film, there are only 3 female characters, 4 very small role. Because when it's based on true story, actually these man that traveled at that time. It was a group of 4 male actors that traveled in the Balkans during the time of war, from Kosovo to Montenegro, and illegally crossing the border going to Albania to a theater festival, which is so funny. Yeah, we did audition, for the film. We auditioned in Kosovo and in Albania. We met many actors, same as Blerta. We filmed everything because Fatos actually did a lot of work in the theater. He's not very young as our directors here. He's in older age, but still it was his first feature. So he used this way of working, same as in theater. He spent so many times after choosing the actors with them, rehearsing quite a lot, So our cast is basically 4 actors, 4 main roles, and then we have entries of secondary roles who we chose. They were all very well-known names of Kosovo. And this made it, I think it made a really big impact in the film as well. Next film, I can only say that our next film, which we are developing a story, has a main female character, and it's almost all cast is female. So here goes my influence as a producer.
But do you think that now with these 4 successes made by women directors, produced partly by women, you think also regarding the view in the Film Fund, the Ministry of Culture, that it will help also these kind of subjects to be more visible to
Well, so far, actually, our Film Fund, and I think, probably they will agree with me, our Film Fund, we don't have any quota or anything in terms of encouraging more women to apply and to get funding. But this came very naturally. There were good stories, and although all 3 films are debut films, they trusted in the directors, and they gave them the fund. So I think our center, the Film Fund, but not only Film Fund. I don't know how much you know the Kosovo story. We have women winners of Olympics in judo. We have world-known stars in music. Now, not only Dua Lipa and Rita Ora, but another 3 or 4, all women, And we have, all these women here in film industry, doing such a great thing, So I don't know what it is, but there is some energy here that I think Kosovo, being a young country, should think of ways of actually giving women space to also lead the country. Not only that, and yes, we have a woman president here in Kosovo. I'm happy for that. I think she should give more space to women. She should be more open to women. She didn't come to our festival or returned anything in writing why she's not coming. I don't understand, or didn't support the festival. But nevertheless, I think our government should support more. The Ministry of Culture is kind of quite open, and we have a great minister right now, which I think he's listening and he understands. We have a prime minister that actually is a filmophile. He loves film. He is a regular viewer in the festival. Doesn't come to the opening festival, but he wants to come here, buy tickets and watch films, and we value that, So there are good steps in terms of film industry, but I think there is small contribution that also our festivals gave to it, DocuFest and PriFest and Anibar and all these festivals that are happening, bringing you here, because We are, unfortunately, we are locked in this land. We don't have the right to travel. It takes such a long time to get a visa, and if you get it, can you imagine? We can get a visa even for 48 hours. Like they ask you how long you're going to be traveling, and if you say I'm going to go for 3 days, they give you a visa for 3 days, let's say, or 4 days. So I mean, this is very ridiculous. There are injustices in the Balkan, within the Balkan countries. Kosovo is the only one left out of media funding, of Euroimage, of many funds, you know, and these things should be fixed. This is why we as festival and as film industry, we are trying hard to do, to do more to get these recognitions, you know, and we deserve it, I think.
And Ulrike, is there within your department space to support this, to encourage this? Are there?
Thanks. For sure, and I think first a reflection on this. It's really incredibly interesting to listen to, and a lot of the reflections that as a United Nations professional or a diplomat that you make, it's important that you get the laws in a country correct, right? You need to make sure that the legal framework is according to international law, according to human rights principles, all of that. But you can't change any country with only laws. And you said, we are delegated roles. We are delegated different positions as women, and we limit ourselves with those delegated authorities, basically. And so I think what you are doing is extremely important, because you can be engines of changing the society, because you have to do both. You have to move, you have to squeeze from the bottom and push from the top. And that's the way it is, and it's in every place. I've seen it in Sweden, and the thing is that you can never give up, because in Sweden we had my mother was a feminist, brought a lot of work. I hardly saw her when we grew up, but the fact is that, and I thanked her. I said, "It's great. You've been so opening all the doors for me. I don't need to do anything now, in terms of women's rights." She said, "No, just watch it, because it can turn any day." And it's true, it can. We see now a big movement against actually women's rights, because men feel squeezed. So that's also the role of film, is that show also masculinity in a more positive role. I remember we had an author here, a French author, who wrote about, she had been subject to violence, and she said masculinity is this hard cage where we put small boys in. And I thought that was very good, because we think that we are stuck in female stereotypes. Men are also stuck. I don't want to sort of highlight now men, because we're actually here because they get highlighted all the time. But I think that's important. So in the UN, we've been in Kosovo for a very long time. We work with UN Women. We have some UN Women colleagues here as well today, and they support this event. But also the whole UN, we work obviously with government. Very important things like having a quota. That was something that was worked on with UN support a long time back here. There is a quota in Parliament, 30%. That's extremely important. We may think that quotas, are they really so needed? Are they really good? Is parity such a target? And it is, because without the numbers, we don't see women. That's the thing. So parity is extremely important, 50-50. That's, we don't need to be happy for less. But so, yes, there are things we can do. We work with government, with the ministries here, and we push all the time for women's rights. But I think it's very important, property rights. We did a small film actually on property rights, I think, a few years ago. because that's something that is just such an injustice, and it's such a blatant injustice that hold women back. But obviously, I think leadership is very important. You mentioned that, Vjosa, and how the government, all governments, but if you really want to achieve a more gender equal society, you have to be paying attention to every detail, not only MPs, not only your cabinet, but it is details, and it's like bringing women in there. And there is nothing wrong with a quota. In fact, it should be parity, not only a 30% quota. But I'm full of amazement, full of amazement.
I was wondering if you had encountered difficulties financing your film. More. Let's put it this way: if you had encountered more obstacles than your male colleagues, because I know everybody is fighting for this tiny little budget that is for everybody a problem, but I can imagine that it is even harder. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe you didn't feel it that way.
Well, I was not raising funds myself. The producer was, but they were pretty much involved. When it's low budget, then the director is always the whole time. But I'll speak for myself. I mean, the easier question would be, if you ask in general, was it ever easy to raise funds? And then I'd say no, but not because of gender. I wouldn't say because of gender. I will repeat something that Kaltrina said in one of the shows that we were together. It's like, maybe because it's low budget films, so there's no gender obstacles yet for films. If we come, I hope we do, I think we will come to making high budget films, then we will see. But you know, I don't think we will be quiet then if something happens. So just watch out. If big budget, we can't be ignored now. But in case if we do, we won't be very quiet.
It was very difficult. Not because I'm a woman. There was something very important that Vjosa said. We didn't push for the quota in our film center because we didn't need to. The main reason being because all of the women that wanted to tell a story are highly educated, had great stories, and they competed and won. And they are winning all the awards, traveling throughout the entire world, representing the country for 10 years now. Yes, this has been a golden year, but we have been working for a decade to tell our stories, to have women on screen in main roles. Yes, once our fund will have more money, the big boys will come. But as Vjosa said, we cannot be ignored.
Not after this year. I mean, when it's evident, you know, that the films are good. Films are showing in A-list festivals. They are winning awards. And we can't be ignored. I mean, and we have a strong, actually, Film Producers Association also. Now, a new Film Directors Association. So all these associations are exactly doing their job in lobbying for our rights. So.
Then I have another question. Your film, none of your film have been released in Kosovo, right? Or none. So the regular audience is still waiting for this. Although
they can't ignore our festival. It has to be festival first, and then the cinemas. Yeah.
But now, will they soon come in the cinemas?
Well, of course, it has been released in festival, and it was a very Venera will be tomorrow, 8:30. Everybody, and I'm really excited to see it. I worked on it, but I didn't see it, so I'm really excited to be here tomorrow. But with Hive as well, it was a really nice premiere. It was very good to be here at PriFest to premiere it, but also it will be at Cineplex from end of September for all the audiences to see it. So. we're
It's
really
very
excited for
important that it goes to Cineplex because it will reach a much wider audience than when it stays in a small art house theater.
Yeah, well, the good thing is that the audience, we used to have films in cinema. Before Cineplex, it was in Kino, ABC, but they didn't have a lot of audience. And I think now every day the local films are having more and more audience because, of course, we're dealing with films like La La Land and so on. And then there's Hive, you know. So, you know, not so much of an attractive poster, but people, because they're going to Cineplex and they like going to cinema, then they're watching also local films, and because films are making big noise abroad, then we're getting a lot of audience here as well. So that's really good thing because people are, I think, enjoying more and more watching local films.
Vjosa.
Yeah, maybe just to add something on this with cinema. It's very interesting because, and it's important to say for you maybe a bit of background. So many generations in Kosovo have grown up without cinema, watching films in pirate copies because of the parallel system, you know, politics and everything. We didn't have a cinema until after the war. After the war, I think it was UN's involvement and EU's involvement that managed to open ABC cinema first. Now, it is always a good news when you get a multiplex cinema like Cineplex, because it kind of brings closer, it attracts young generations. Same thing is what we're doing with the festival. I mean, I can say that now in 13 years, even today, after 13 years, you will see, if you go to Armata, documentaries, some international films, you get like only few people watching them. Why is this phenomena? Because first of all, we are educating people. This is something that I also saw from Sarajevo. They used to tell us, you know, that they even had volunteers filling the rooms at some point because they were embarrassed of international guests showing their film and the room is half empty. We don't do that so much. We sometimes happen to have only 7 people in the room, but this is the reality. We can't lie about it, you know. The audience is kind of getting there. They are learning day by day what is the festival, what kind of films you can see, and they are liking it. We have free of charge tickets for students and for elderly. We always had this promotion and they come. But there is big interest for Kosovan films. And not even Albanian-speaking films, but Kosovan films. Because they are hearing the stories, they are proud of that, and out of pride, they want to come and see what are these films about. And it's, I mean, for the festivals, of course, we just experienced, not only this year, but also in 2019 and 18, we usually try to open with a Kosovan film. And opening night, it's a nightmare for me, because I have to organize 2 theaters, then producers don't want to show the film in too many cinemas, and then we end up doing, 3 screenings, you know, because there is a lot of interest. Same thing happened last night with Luana's film. We had police at one point coming to tell us you should respect the pandemic, restrictions, because look, and everybody wanted to go in because they heard about this film, they know it was in Cannes, they want to be there. But this is beautiful, this is really nice, and the films, some of the films that have been in Cineplex in the last year, like Zana, Martesa, it started with Martesa, with marriage, even though this was an LGBT theme film, they had a lot of audience and a lot of success. Unfortunately, it didn't happen with my film, although it's a black comedy, but we fell into the pandemic problem, so we couldn't generate in the cinema so much audience, but I mean, that was our fate. There's nothing we can do about that. But definitely Hive will be, people cannot wait to go and see it. And I'm sure other films as well, once Vera has the publicity in Venice, I know what will happen.
But the international success helps them
course.
tremendously. And is there any way that schools could participate in having their students come to the cinema, that specific programs? Is there some thought about that, or exists already a program like that maybe?
We started this festival, this edition, with a protest that we did on the first day. There is a cinema, if you go 2 minutes from here, there is a cinema that is empty, sitting there, you know, a ghost building, beautiful building. It has also a summer cinema just outside, which was turned into a parking place for many years. And now there are some strange movements going on between municipality and this and that, and you know, some NGOs, and it's not very clear who wants to take it and manage it, or who wants to turn it into a supermarket or a casino or something. So we had a debate there, and we gathered some of the important people to talk about it, because as a festival, we have enough network, enough distributors, enough sales people and network to get these films, the European films, you know, the art house films, to get them here, and then we could organize that. But there's no way Cineplex can organize this, because Cineplex runs on blockbusters. Even when we showed our film, I mean, our advertisement was 5% in their social media, and everything else was like big all over this big shopping center, you know. So for us, it's different, because we would show different kind of films, you know, and I think that's very important for young audiences.
In the audience, is there anybody who wants to ask something? Is there any question? Yes, please.
I could scream, but no, just wanted first and foremost to thank Vjosa for a great event, and also the filmmakers around the table. And just a question from a film lover but ignorant in filmmaking. I was present at the premiere, at the screening of Hive, and I saw the emotion that was overwhelming, not only for you, Blerta, but also for the actors and everybody. And making that film, and I'm sure it was the same for all of you, in making a film, how do you overcome that emotion in the sense of being a professional filmmaker, trying to transmit the message, but also having in the back of your mind the same sentiment that you carry out by either living through what you're trying to screen, or the message you're trying to transmit, or knowing in person what that has happened. So that was my question, and a short comment is that in 2019, I read some statistics somewhere, being a film lover, there was this higher curve of film producers and film actresses in Hollywood and elsewhere that has reached the peak, but still women are largely outnumbered by men in film industry. And qualitative films, the films that tells the story, are particularly overshadowed by blockbusters and soap operas, where the media also locally should play a very important role by showing the movies, advocating, reaching out, and inspiring young men and women, just the way that with your exposés in the beginning you have truly inspired me, and most probably all of us. So please, thank you for that, and keep on inspiring us, and thank you for the great work that you're doing.
But just so I understand, you're saying how do you maintain the feeling, the emotions, or?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if I would have told my story, I would have the emotions would overcome the message that I'm trying to transmit. So in a way, I would have been subjective to the whole topic, and that is quite difficult. For me, it's impossible. And how you do it as a professional in the film industry?
You cry, you wipe your tears, and then go to work.
I do the same, actually.
That's what Faria says. It's impossible not to be subjective if you have been born and raised here and gone through the war. So, I mean, I can call myself lucky because I lived in Pristina, although we've seen quite a lot in Pristina as well. But I haven't lost anybody during the war. So they haven't gone missing or not even got killed. So in that sense, I can call myself happy. But in a way, having lived here and with everything that we saw, even just on TV, but also the fear that we felt the whole time, you cannot be objective about it. But I think that only adds value, because that's why sometimes it's hard to go in some country and make a film about a very authentic story, because then you're just going to be some outside filmmaker stereotyping the whole situation. Sometimes it works, and that the beauty of films is that every project is very I think it's like individual. It has its individual fate in a way, because they can get developed pretty well in many ways. But for me, there's nothing wrong by being subjective. But of course, you have to be careful. Because you have to think. Sometimes you can fall in the trap of explaining too much because we come from a small country and America does not know about us and this and all the drama, and then we're like explaining too much. But for me, I was really trying to be aware of that I really don't want to explain nothing. I don't want to point fingers mostly to nobody, a little bit to man, but some stones here and there. But at the same time, I just really want, it is an authentic story. It is very specific to Kosovo and Kruša and Mlade, but I wanted to focus on the character. And I wanted to focus on the humanity of it, on the human feelings, rather than talking too much Albanians, Serbians, Kosovo, here, there, and that. Because then when it gets complicated. And then when you lose on being descriptive. So I really just wanted to connect personally to the character, because Faria gave me that impression when I met her the first time. And then it involved a lot of crying. My mom never cries, so it's her fault that I thought that you shouldn't cry. But now I'm 38, so I think I opened up and I'm just crying. So even during the shots, it involved a lot of emotion. But then you have to be a little bit. You have to find a balance between subjective and objective, and rationalize a little bit on how the audience should go through the story and follow the character, because otherwise the story is in general pretty sad. And then I just didn't want to make a very melancholic film, because Fahriye is not that kind of person. I mean, she has gone through a lot, and if I had put everything she has gone too much, everybody would say, "Oh, come on, it's just a movie." You know, that kind of feeling that we sometimes say, this happens only in movies. But really, a lot of things happened to her, but then we had to remove a lot of things and just focus the story on what was important. And for me, it was important to understand, as much as I knew and could, how she really felt to go through all that, and then just give some hope, because she is a hopeful story. So I just wanted the audience to feel a little bit how it feels to really search for someone for 20 years and still wonder if they're going to come back one day. I mean, she even today wonders if, I mean, we're talking about women and missing people, but she is still waiting for him. And I think that could be the most horrible feeling that you can. I mean, losing someone is always hard, but losing someone and not knowing where they are, I don't know how hard can it get. So for me, it was like always a debate, how far should I go also with the ending of the film, because I really wanted a sense of hope, as much as you can give hope in this kind of situation.
And Norika, how was it for you to stay in this emotional journey? And
yeah, in my case, it's a bit different from Blerta, because I got emotion by how she explained this. So I was not expecting me to talk after her. But but thank you for sharing this. No, like for me, it was mostly different sensitivity when it comes to the themes the film approach. It's like you talk about family. And in a family, everyone thinks it has its own right to maintain this hierarchy within. And for example, when we casted, I repeat this story because it's it can tell a lot about the whole picture. Like when I casted, I was trying to find a father because I was also not wanting to portray this kind of idea of a bad and a good guy. But I wanted somebody who has the story within them and tell me how it is to feel being judged for such cold manners that usually our fathers have in the society we live. When I met the actor who plays in the film, he told me he has 9 daughters. And I was surprised because he couldn't talk to me. Like he couldn't really know how to communicate. And then it was even stranger when we brought Venera in the room. And there was this gap, which is like, of course you remember a lot of stuff you grew up with, but then you have to, and that's why I love casting, because you have to understand them. And it goes, you dig, and then you understand that actually there are so many flaws they are dealing with. And for me it was important that this is in the film, without pitting them, because the film deals a lot about the position of women in society as well, but I was avoiding to explain why we are as we are, because for me, why I like still shooting in Kosovo is that I feel no matter what place in society we have, each generation and each gender, like male, female, we are not given up. We are still fighting. Maybe we don't know how to articulate ourselves as Venera does, but I think there are a lot of energy happening, and it's like very animalistic energy that they tend to touch without being too present. And this is how I also wanted to direct this film. So, but of course, when you approach such themes and you ask these people who have lived maybe stranger things in their life, you always have to approach, I think, with a bit of humor and knowing that there are flaws which we cannot understand.
And Kaltrina, how do you feel about that with your film?
Patriarchy was not invented in the Balkans. The only reason the film I made is set up in Kosovo is because I'm from here. I culturally understand the layers quite deeply. I grew up here. And I feel comfortable shooting here. I love the language, I love the dialects, I love the faces. So for me it was important to tell a universal story because I was sure it resonates universally. And the fact that it was set in Kosovo was only because it was very comfortable for me. And yes, I don't want to explain because our lives are not very different worldwide. We pretend to live these elevated realities, but actually they're not. It just takes a little bit of digging to see that we meet in these platforms where everything is the same. We have the same fights.
Thank you so much.
I just said yes.
Yes. Anybody else?
Maybe just one. Yeah. Can I borrow your mic? So, and I think also this what you tried to what you said is also no. Well, I think that's also maybe that I'm also going to be sexist. Maybe that is a female characteristic, actually, in a way, in the good sense. you know, because I think anyway. But I think also film can be quite healing. So part of what you talk about actually also reflects processes of healing. And I think that's very important. It's important to the entire Balkans. And really, of course, not excluding Kosovo. But just to say one thing that I wanted to, some of you mentioned that, I think it was you who said that the way that you approach casting or filmmaking or directing or producing was different, you felt, than what if a man would do it. So maybe it is. And just as an anecdote, that in the UN we have very few women leaders. So we have a network of women leaders where we talk about what can we do else and how can we support each other. And one of the things is actually also allowing yourself to not adopt behavior that men have that we didn't agree with in the beginning. So I guess that by saying that, keep your approach to that is perhaps more, that is different, and let's hope that men will look at that and say, what a great way of approaching putting a cast together. Bravo from my side. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for this really inspiring talk. Thank you for making these wonderful pictures. I wish you luck. And I wish the films luck to travel all around the world and inspire women and girls and men, because men also, they're equal in this. We all need to grow up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.